Hello everybody, in this video on CoderCast today we're going to be talking about stateless versus stateful and transitioning a stateless component into a stateful component. So we're going to start out with a name component and transition that into something that we can change. So as you can see right here, I just have the boilerplate create React app up and running. And so if I come up here, we're going to create a name component. I'm going to say function name. And this name component is just going to return back a name, and it's going to have a div, and that div is just going to return back Josh. So we can actually take this, right, and we can just render it here. And so if we remove this, you'll see that it returns back Josh. So it's not really doing anything special. We could do this. We could say this is going to take props, and in the props we can destructure that and say that we're going to get the name from this. And so I can say name here, and then I can say Josh, and this could be, name. And if we save, it returns back Josh. You can see if I change this to Alice, Alice would return back right there. So you can make this, a component that takes arguments or props. But also, what happens if you wanted to change this as a user? What if you wanted to have an input, and on change you wanted to update this? Well, this is where state comes in, and we can create a stateful component. So currently with React 16.6, there's no way of making this functional component a stateful component. With hooks coming in the future, that is possible. But for now, we're going to have to create a class component. So what we're going to do is call class name extends component. And this is going to take that render from up here that returns name, right? We'll comment this out. And then name needs to live somewhere. So we're going to go use a constructor, and inside the constructor we're going to have props, and we're going to have super, and we're going to pass the props to super, and then we're going to have this.state, and it's going to equal a name that's going to start with Josh. And of course down here we're going to have to deconstruct that off of that, so we say const name is equal to this.state. And if this is newer syntax to you, this is the exact same thing as doing this right here. It's just basically taking name off of this.state, and it looks a little bit cleaner. So you can see that we have Josh right there. Again, if I change this to Alice, Alice would work as well. Of course, it doesn't take this name prop anymore, so that's not really doing anything. But there we go. We have a stateful component that has this sense of state and takes this name to initiate it. What if we wanted to update this? What if we wanted to add an input in here somewhere? So if I added an input here, and then I wanted whatever is inputted into this, so if I typed in here, I wanted this to update, how would that work? Well, first we need to have an onChange handler, and we're going to say this.handleChange, and of course we're going to need this handleChange method right here. And this is going to take the event in, which will have a target, which will have a value. So we're deconstructing that off of there. We can also just do here, we could say event, and then we could say event.target.value as well. There's multiple ways of doing that. This is just a simpler way of doing it. So whenever this changes, we're going to be able to set state. So if we say this.setState, and then we can say that the name is going to be the value. So this won't actually work like we want it to, and you could probably guess why if you've done React at all. So if I type in here, what we're going to get is cannot read property set state of undefined. So basically this is undefined, and the reason is we need to bind this handle change. So if I say this.handleChange, and then I say this.handleChange.bind this, so then when I type inside of here, it will update, and I can come back and say Josh again. So we need to bind any of the event listeners that we use down here. An optional way of doing this as well is you can say here you want to do this, and then you can call this a method, but then of course you're going to have to say event and pass the event in here. That gets a little dirty, as well as there's newer ways in ES6 that you can handle this as well. So we can actually get rid of this constructor completely if we do a couple of things with class properties. So I can take the state, move it down here, and then also I can make this a variable of our class property. So I can say this with an arrow function. We can remove the constructor completely. And if I save, here we go. Works just like it did before. So that is how to make a stateless component and how to make a stateful component. Thanks for watching.